When the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last summer, actually 1 year ago, they created the opportunity for increased legislation to protect the sanctity of human life on both the federal and the state level. See, what had happened for nearly 50 years is the court had taken this out of the hands of elected officials. And so for years, for decades, elected officials candidates ran on the issue of allowing elected representatives to deal with the issue of the sanctity of human life. And that's what the court decision did. It did not outlaw abortion. It simply said, this is no longer for the courts, it's for the people's elected representatives. Now, in the wake of this, we've had, as I played earlier in the program, Governor Chris Christie, former governor, that this is an issue for the states. Oh, yes, the states have a role in this, but so does the federal government. So does Congress. And in fact, one such bill, the Parental Notification and Intervention Act, would require abortion industry organizations that accept federal funding to inform the parents of any minor seeking an abortion, because what happens is they'll cross state lines to avoid provisions in one state. And this provides the opportunity for parents to intervene when we're talking about minor children. Joining me now to discuss this is Congresswoman Mary Miller. She serves on the House Committee on Agriculture and the House Committee on Education and the Workforce. She represents the 15th Congressional District of Illinois. Congresswoman Miller, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing us to have a voice to let people know what's going on here
So
in
let's
Congress.
Thank you. Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this legislation and what it will do.
Well, it's going to allow parents to be notified. The abortion provider is going to, if a minor woman comes in seeking abortion, the provider has to notify the parents and give them 4 days to intervene. And if they violate this, there's going to be a $100,000 fine and jail time. And basically what it is giving parents their rights. And parents are here to protect their children like no one else. And that's, I think, what's happening in our country in light of the attack on parental rights would have been unimaginable a few years ago, but we need to fight back. You know, our good friend, Pastor Erwin Lutzer from Chicago, I quote him all the time. He said, evil will never retreat on its own, only when it's confronted by a more powerful force. And we just have to look for these opportunities to be a force against parental rights.
Well, and that's what the New Testament says about lawlessness. The spirit of lawlessness is already here, and it will become even greater as that which restrains it is removed, and that is the Holy Spirit, which finds its place in believers today. That's why we need to be out in positions to do that restraining, and that's why I appreciate you leading with this legislation. I'm going to go back and just for clarification, when you talk about the fines here, this is for the abortionist that would pursue and violate this law of not notifying a parent. So I just want to clarify that. So we're talking about minor children. Parents want to know. I mean, vast majority of parents want to be there for this life-altering decision that a child might make.
Yeah, well, and I like that it's going to cause there to be a 4-day waiting period, because I do believe that if women were fully informed, if they were required to have an ultrasound, and if they had time to think it through and had wise counsel, I think a lot of women would change their minds. I think they're in a panic, they're driven by fear, they're getting bad counsel, it's a rash decision. And here we're going to slow it down. Hopefully the parents will get the daughter medical intervention and wise counsel and share the truth with the daughter.
Well, I go back, it's a well-used analogy, but you know, most schools in America, before they would give an aspirin or medication to a student, they're going to have to get parental permission to do so. So we're talking here about a life-altering and a life-destroying decision on behalf of these abortion clinics. I think it's a great piece of legislation. I think it's very much needed.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm always going to stand up for parental rights. And I was listening to your segment before this about prayer. And I just want to encourage people that I got up early this morning and met with quite a few other Congress people to pray for our country. And one of the things that was said was much prayer, much power, little prayer, little power, no prayer, no power. So I appreciate that you're encouraging everybody to pray for our country.
Well, and to pray for our members of Congress and other elected officials who are called by God to be in the roles that you're in and trying to uphold righteousness and fight for those things which are true, those things which are right, parental rights. I mean, that's fundamental. So very quickly, how can people help you on your piece of legislation?
Well, I think they should notify their members who represents them and let them know that this is a piece of legislation that they would like to have supported. And, the vast majority of Americans want parental rights defended. And that's basically what this is. We are talking about minor daughters seeking abortions, that their parents will be notified and that there'll be 4 days for them to intervene.